All right, hey guys, this is Johnny, and a lot of people have been asking what I do about insurance when I travel, specifically health insurance, travel insurance, and something that a lot of people don't think about is car insurance. So, actually, from what I've experienced, most people are either overpaying for insurance that they're not using back home, or they're not protected, and you are basically rolling the dice like I did when I first got started. So first, actually, let's talk about health insurance and what kind of the repercussions of that is. So with health insurance and really any kind of insurance, when you don't need it, everything's fine, and it's one of those kind of gambles where you feel like you're paying a lot of money every month for no reason, and you might never use it. Well, the nice thing about being in places like Thailand is if you do need to go to the hospital, you can just pay out of pocket, pay in cash, and it's actually a lot cheaper than even paying just your copay or your deductible back home. So there's something called medical tourism that is really popular, where people will actually fly from all around the world, from Canada or the US to Thailand, just to go do either surgeries or major operations or get dental care, because it's actually cheaper to do it in places like Bangkok, which has a really world-class hospitals, great Western-trained dentists and doctors. And it's actually cheaper to fly there and actually stay in a private room for a whole month while you recover, and maybe even stay in a hotel, get room service, have a private nurse, than it is just to even pay the copay back home. And to give you guys an example of how much it costs to see a doctor in Thailand, a few years ago, I tore a calf muscle and I had to get a half cast on my leg. And normally back in the US, going to the emergency room, getting a cast put on, getting the not the x-rays, but it was an actual ultrasound to see if the muscle was torn all the way or if it can heal by itself. All these things would have been thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars. But it ended up being $130 out of pocket for me. So I actually didn't even claim it on my travel insurance, even though it was covered. So that being said, with health insurance, if you are living in a place like Thailand and you can pay out of pocket, you really don't need it. But at least for Americans, we get fined if we don't have some type of health insurance. And that's under Obamacare a few years ago. So if you are going to be in the US for more than 30 days a year or more than 35 days a year, you are legally required to have some kind of insurance. So if you have to get insurance, I would recommend looking into something called medi-share. So I looked at a couple of different programs, but the one that looks like it has the least downsides is something called Alera Health. It's a Christian Health Ministry, like all of them, but this one has the least religious connotations to it, so it has the least amount of downsides. So take a look into that yourself, but the way it works is basically it's a religious exemption. So instead of buying insurance, you put money into a fund and you guys basically pay cash for whatever hospital or doctor visits you need, but everyone's putting the money in. At the end of the day, it ends up being a lot less than going through traditional healthcare, which we all know is broken in the US and insurance is overpriced. So luckily, if you are in the US for less than 35 days a year, or you are living outside of the US for more than 330 days a year, like I am, you actually can qualify something called the Foreign Residency Program, where basically you are passing a physical presence test where you're not living in the US, so you don't need US health insurance. But with that also comes the danger of not having any insurance. So if something bad happens, especially while you're traveling, let's say you don't happen to be in Thailand at the time, you're back home visiting, you're in another country, you're in Europe somewhere, you're in Australia, and something bad happens, you might be screwed. Or there's a big, a medical emergency, like while I was trekking here in Nepal, if I needed to get a helicopter evacuation because I broke my leg or something, really bad happened, I would be screwed because even paying out of pocket would end up costing, tens of thousands of dollars or maybe even more. So the hack has been to get travel insurance. So for the last, 8 years that I've been traveling, I haven't had health insurance at all, but I've had travel insurance. And I was actually forced to get it when I was working as a dive master. And luckily, that company actually happened to be good, and I actually still use them today. But there are a lot of different options. So if you are on a shorter trip for less than a year, I would look into World Nomads. I've heard some good things about them. I've had friends who have did claims with them, and they've gotten their money from them. So you can check them out in the link below. Or if you want to use the same company I use and get annual insurance, especially if you're a scuba diver, you can go through Dan. So I use the Explorer plan in the middle, which is $319 a year, which is really cheap. It's like less than $30 a month, and it covers everything that I need for big emergencies. So emergency evacuation and medical expenses up to $100,000. So there's all these other kind of travel related protections as well, which a lot of people really like, but honestly, I've never used them. I just have it for big emergencies. And to be honest, because this is my only plan and I don't have normal insurance, I should probably actually upgrade to the Voyager plan, which is $644 a year. So it's about double. But what it covers is also double. So the only reason why I haven't upgraded to the bigger plan is I figure I have enough money in savings where it's kind of, I know it's a big gamble, but if I needed to, I could pay a lot of these things out of pocket, especially being in Southeast Asia for most of the year. So I just have it upgraded, but definitely recommend getting some kind of plan. I don't think anybody should be traveling without some kind of insurance, because if something happens, you want to be covered. So with medical tourism, as I mentioned, it's not just for surgeries. Like teeth cleaning. So you can get an x-ray, you can get a teeth cleaning for less than $50 by an actual dentist in places like Thailand, versus that would be your just copay back home, not to mention paying hundreds of dollars a month for insurance. And this is actually me on the plane coming from South Africa back to Thailand with my cast on my legs at a half cast. And actually in Johannesburg, it was also very cheap going to the emergency room there to get the cast on, seeing a doctor. It was about $130. And then when I had my second follow-up visit to take it off in Thailand and seeing a doctor and all that, it was also very cheap. It was, in total, I think I paid less than $200. So very, very cheap. So real quick, I also want to talk about car insurance. A lot of people don't realize that, when you're traveling, another nice thing is you get to save money on car insurance. And I was paying $185 a month for my car insurance back home before I started traveling. When you start adding that up, that's $2,200 a year, and that's not including the money you're saving on gas, the money that you're saving on maintenance and depreciation. I think on average people spend, I think it's something like $2,000 to $10,000 a year on just their car every single year. And by not needing that and using Uber, walking, taking public transport, riding a scooter or even a bicycle while traveling, has saved me a ton of money. So if you have a car back home still that's just sitting in a garage somewhere, I encourage you to sell it and start saving money on auto insurance. And if you do need to go back home and you need to drive a car for a month, I wrote about this in the blog as well, but basically you are covered usually up to 15 or 30 days, depending on the credit card that you use to book the rental car, or if you're driving a friend's car or a family member's car, as long as you're not in the same city. I think that's the big coverage, is they don't want you driving your parents' car if you are also a resident of that city, because it's easy to take advantage of it and just say, oh, I'm traveling, I don't need insurance. So in general, as long as you are driving a friend's car or you don't live in the same city as your parents, that's covered. For rental cars, my Visa card, for whatever reason, covers only up to, my Visa card covers up to 30 days on a car rental, but my MasterCard only covers 15 days. And also my travel insurance normally would cover $35,000 for the collision damage waiver, but because I'm a resident of Texas, for whatever reason, it just doesn't cover Texans. So you have to look into these details. Everyone's gonna be a little bit different, but the reason why I want to bring this up is I want to let you guys know that there are alternatives to paying $200 a month for auto insurance, and it ends up saving a lot of money. And if you use a car sharing app like Turo or Getaround, a lot of times you can book insurance through them and it's included. I have links to that in here as well. And one really cool thing about renting cars wherever you are is because you're only renting cars for like a few days at a time or a few weeks at a time, sometimes you can rent something really fun. So I actually rented a Ferrari in Barcelona because it was something ridiculously cheap. And I've done this in Vegas with the Lamborghini, and literally it's just a couple $100 and you can drive your dream car for a few hours on the track, or for half a day in the city. And I've also rented just normal cars for up to a month back in California to drive around, and it actually ends up being cheaper than owning a car. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it's helped you a lot. It's literally saved me tens of thousands of dollars not needing to pay health and travel insurance while living abroad while traveling. And this is a great way to add not only to your travel fund, but hopefully you guys are investing the money and you can use that for your future retirement, as well as creating new sources of passive income. If you have any questions, comment below. I'm happy to help. And also make sure you read the full blog post that's associated with this. I'll have a link to that below as well. And let me know, are you paying for health insurance right now? Are you paying for travel insurance? Are you paying for car insurance? If so, how much, and why do you keep it? Do the math. I think it'll be really, really exciting for everybody to see how much money you could potentially save by just getting rid of these couple little things. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.